I wanted to make a video about Mount and Blade, Warband and Mount and Blade, with Fire and Sword before Mount and Blade 2, Banner Lord comes out. This video is going to be about Warband and I'll discuss Fire and Sword in my next video. This game is overwhelmingly epic. Despite its age, it is just as good today as it was 6 years ago. I haven't found another game like it. You get to start out with next to nothing, and over time, you can build up your relationships with the various lords of the land and the different factions while you level up and get stronger and raise an army and train your troops and recruit some companions that are like secondary characters you get to specialize as well. This game definitely forces your character to specialize in some stuff and use your companions to boost your army's stats in other stuff. If you wanna be a leader and a medic, it's harder to also be an engineer and epic warrior as well. Or if you want to be a tracker/trainer, it's hard to be a medic/leader as well. You need companions for the things your character isn't good at or your army will start to suffer mid to late game. I like that you can choose to join a faction and rise up through the ranks in that faction or just ignore it all and be your own boss and try to take everything for yourself. If you try to start your own faction, you'll have to watch out for every other faction in the game. They will still have their set enemies, but they'll all also target you. If you're still relatively new, well, no. No matter how skilled you are at the game, unless you're looking for the toughest challenge you can get from this game, I would highly recommend you stay a freelance warband for as long as possible and help out whomever you want along the way before joining whichever faction you want. Then, use that faction to wipe out as many others as you want to before you abandon your faction to create your own. The royalty and succession system in the game that allows you to marry into a high-ranking house of nobles to get you closer to the throne, or you can raise your reputation throughout the land in a variety of ways ranging from proving yourself in battle, or taking a lot of land for your empire, or completing quests for the varying lords within your realm. The different factions have different views of each other, and when you join a particular faction, the views of all the others will change towards you. This means, you can essentially curry favor with one or two factions, while doing your best to build up your character and warband by pissing off the other factions without worrying about how that faction will view you when you join an empire as a vassal. Joining an empire and taking a fort or town for then allows you to request to be awarded that land to keep. If you get the land as a reward, you become a lord or lady, depending on the sex of your character, and you get to upgrade the fort or city and the nearby village if it has one. You also get an income from that land in the form of taxes paid by your citizens. You are required to protect that land from invaders and you'll have to garrison troops in the fort or town in order to keep it from falling into enemy hands again. The more you build up your land and deal with the bandits nearby your land, the more wealthy your citizens become and the more money your land earns you. It does a good job of forcing you to be a real lord and deal with difficulties that come with that. You can also build businesses to get involved with the game's economy. You never had to actually play this game like you're trying to conquer the world. You can just build up a mercenary group or become a businessman and just make money running your businesses and doing errands for the lords of each faction. The game does an excellent job of having an economy. Buy up all the meat or cheese from a section of the world, and the price of that item will skyrocket. You can buy items for cheap in a place of the world where they're plentiful, and sell them where they're scarce, but you also have to take that information into account when deciding what businesses to build and where. You aren't going to make as much money from a business if others of its same type are already in the area, because you'll be flooding the game's economy with that resource and driving down the value of it. You can recruit companions that act like secondary characters you can control and improve how you see fit. You can control what armor and weapons they have to bring into battle, as well as what all of their stats are and what class of unit they become. If you want to take the two-handed fighter and turn him into a horse archer, you can. Even better than that incredible amount of customization you have over your companions, if you create your own faction and start building your own empire, in addition to getting lords of the other factions to defect to your empire, you can make your companions into lords or ladies and give them their own land to protect and their own warband to build. Since the companions all like or hate specific other companions, it's not possible to keep all the companions in your warband at once. Making your own faction and making some companions into lords or ladies will allow you to recruit every companion over time if you so desire. Since the game has a robust prisoner and slave system, if you invest enough in the prisoner skill, you can capture prisoners during combat or when taking a city or fort. You can even take lords prisoner. I'm not sure if you can sell the lords into slavery like you can all the units in the game, or if you just have to wait for someone to ransom them. If you find the right person in a city, you can sell your prisoners for a set ransom. Better troops obviously are worth more. And lords can net you thousands of money. If you choose to let a lord go when you have the opportunity to take them prisoner, it will usually greatly improve your standing with them. You can also make them hate you a lot by doing it, because some lords will see that as an insult. Speaking of lords getting insulted, you can insult a lord to their face and duel them one-on-one if you want. I especially enjoy doing it as a female character because the developers of this game try to be as historically accurate as possible despite the fact the game is set in a fictional realm. Women are definitely looked down on in the game world. It's harder for them to rise through the ranks and get the respect they deserve. They're less likely to be awarded land they conquered for their king. It's more difficult for them to marry and become royalty that way. However, because they're so heavily disregarded by everyone, they gain reputation faster than male characters. No one expects the woman to be the leader of the best warband in the land and one that regularly takes on armies twice her size. This allows them to build warbands faster than their male counterparts. The determining factors for how large your warband can be are, your skill in leadership, your rank in terms of nobility, and the reputation you have throughout the land. Increase each of these, and you can increase how many people you can lead. The battles and missions in this game are also pretty fun. Taking a city or a fort or raiding a village are a ton of fun. You can divide your troops up into different formations such as putting the foot soldiers together and the archers together and the cavalry together, or give yourself a small group of bodyguards for combat, and while in combat, you can direct each individual unit formation to do different things. Like hold position or charge forward, hold fire, or fire on my command or at will. There's a decent amount of strategy to the battles, but if you have a large enough army with powerful enough troops, almost all the troops can be upgraded and have their own upgrade paths. You can largely ignore the tactics and just stride into battle and lay waste to your foes with little to no thought put towards tactics. When you start a battle, you get a battle advantage, and depending on how high or low, it can even be negative. Your starting advantages affects how well your troops usually perform. But even beyond that, as you just play the game and build relations with lords and towns and factions, you'll also build your renown in the world, and the higher your fame is, the more troops you can have in your army at once and the better advantage you'll tend to have. I love it because it makes me feel like my enemies are sort of scared to fight me because they know my reputation for crushing enemies and armies larger than my own. I never use the auto combat feature because it is kind of the worst I've ever seen in a game. It doesn't matter that when I actually fight for myself, I can lay waste to up to an average of 40 to 50 enemies per battle. By myself. When using the auto battle feature, the game seems to care more about how many and of what type of troops you have. It always results in more casualties than you would have had by fighting the battle yourself. I don't know if that's just how the auto combat feature ended up, or if it was designed that way to encourage you to actually play each fight rather than just skipping them all to try and finish the game faster. The more you build your relations with the various lords and factions, the more likely it'll be that you can convince some of them to follow you and add their troops to your own when you're striding into battle or take over some towns or forts. If you build your relationships high enough and you're already part of a faction, you might be voted to be marshal of the faction and get to control all the armies of your faction. If you want a great action RPG that's also a semi-open world strategy game, I recommend this one. Start off as a small unimportant weakling and work your way up to being a lord or king of your own nation. It takes so long to complete a game that it feels like a real campaign. I've only finished 3 games in my 240 hours of gameplay cause it takes so long. So if you don't want to play this game for tons of hours, I would suggest finding something else, cause I don't think you can win a game in 10 to 20 hours. It's not something you can really finish in one sitting, but I like that about it. Once you start a new game, you know you've got about 40 to 100 hours of gameplay ahead of you before you win. And with that, I'm going to end this video. I'd like to know what all of you think of Mount and Blade, Warband, so please leave any questions or comments you might have in the comments section below. And stay safe till next time. Error. Error. Error.